was from the Buckleys. It was Jim. Jim Buckley actually came to the hotel, came in the room, and I actually was I was trying to get more from him, but I think because the reward was a lot more than that, and at the time he was aware, obviously, that I didn't actually witness this. He wasn't really willing to give me a whole bunch more.
So this was your reward money, basically.
Well, the reward was like $18,000 or something like that. Might even have been more than that. It might have been $28,000, but it was pretty sizable.
And was there a discussion with him that it's going to be less because you just made up your testimony?
He just said, yeah, I'm not going to give you that much. I think he wanted to give me $500 or something like that. And I had a brief conversation with him on the phone, and he really didn't want. At that point, the trial was already said and done, and I don't think he really wanted to give me anything at that point.
Okay.
But he did come down there and give me a check.
Now, is it possible that the check would have been in somebody else's name or in his business's name?
No, it was. I recall Buckley on the check.
Okay.
It was signed by Jim, I believe.
And was it written out to you, to your name?
Yeah.
Okay. When you first made up the story, were you told that you get money for it in the end?
No. Nobody really promised me anything. I was doing it more for the fact that he killed Rick. You know, the whole family was upset about it at that point. Like I was telling Dave, that was where I think Judy and Mary had something in common. Shortly after Rick was killed, she joined a group called the POMC, the Parents of Murdered Children, and that's where her and Mary Buckley actually. I'm not real sure if she knew Mary before that or not, but I know they that's when Judy started discussing with me that she could get inside information on the case that could be used as testimony.
I'm going to run to the restroom real quick and keep going.
Okay. You recently mentioned, let's see, now in the car ride up today, we were talking about you had some discussions with some federal law enforcement agencies concerning, this case. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
I just mentioned it to him in Washington. I talked to my attorneys more in depth to my attorneys, Jamie Hawk and David Bartovi. And that was brought up during a talk session there with investigators. Not in depth with the investigators, but the prosecutor George Jacobs was aware that there was a case back here. We didn't get into it in depth though.
Mm-hmm.
I did talk with my attorneys about it though, pretty in depth about it.
What would they have to say about it?
That it'd probably be a good thing to set the record straight on it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I had other issues going on at the time, but that weren't in any way connected. So we were dealing with that. But
Do you know if they made any records of your conversations with them concerning this case?
I recall reading a I don't think it was a transcript. I think it was the notes that the prosecuting attorney George Jacobs had made during
Those George Jacobs.
Right.
I missed the question. Were you asking why he's coming forward now?
Well, he said that he had spoken with some federal law enforcement agencies and brought up the case. So I just
Okay.
asking about that.
Yeah, what is making you come forward now?
Just, you know what, it's just, after a long time of thinking about it, and I've thought about it a lot over the years, more than anything is the fact that I knew Rick well, and Pete, and Ferg, and Billy Owens. You know what, he did what he had to do that day, because they were gonna hurt him. There's no question.
They were going to hurt Billy Scott.
Right.
But Billy Scott was acting in self-defense.
Right, and more than anything, you know, as pissed off as we were at Billy, as I've gotten older, you know, I just, like I said, I've had my issues with the legal system, and I've put myself in his shoes a few times, and it didn't feel real good. And as much as I dislike the fact that he killed someone that I cared about, if I was in his shoes, I probably would have done the same thing. There's no question Rick had a reputation, and you know, I talked in depth with the survivor, Jim Ferguson, and Billy Owens after the fact, and you know, after thinking about it, I know that that was one of those things where you know, sometimes you just gotta kind of cut your losses. And at that point, you know, I think everybody knew Rick was gonna die young, but when it happened, it caught us by surprise. And what we did was punish him. You know, we used our own kind of justice in a sense to punish him.
Punish Billy Scott.
Right.
Has it been weighing on you?
Yeah, it has a lot. You know, like I said, I've been in the justice system myself, and I've also been on the receiving end of accusations that weren't true. I was more fortunate than he was. I went to a jury, in front of a jury, and was acquitted. You know, but I've thought about that a lot, and thought about, you know, what if I had somebody that was just flat out lying, and then, you know, thank God I had a jury and a judge there, you know, that vindicated me.
In your case, when you
Right.
got acquitted. Yeah.
And that's kind of where I've thought about Billy. You know, he really never stood a chance. I recall them telling me, you know, until the trial, just get out of town, stay low, don't. They wanted me to be unavailable as far as for the defense. I went to Kentucky, stayed down there right up until the trial, and I don't remember. I think it was David Lindelof. It might have been Frank Ford that came down to Kentucky, picked me and several people that I was with up, and brought us up to the hotel in Hamilton. And that's where we stayed until the trial was over.
Okay. How many conversations do you think you had with the detective, Frank?
Frank was really my contact guy, as far as he was really the one that he was more open as far as talking about. He gave me details.
Did he ever say anything like, you know, well, at this point when they ask this, you'll need to say this, where he was just giving you details, were sort of open, that you were making stuff up?
Right. Well, like I said, when I mentioned, I recall him asking me at one point, you know, when he was showing me some pictures about people that I knew, and I said, well, I know there's this person, and he just said, well, that's, you know, we don't want to mention them, you know, and he was concerned about me not passing the lie detector test.
Okay.
You know, he and Judy had talked to. Like I said, I was a juvenile at that point when he came and picked me up at Judy's house for the lie detector test, but and he kind of just coached me on the way down there. He kind of made me feel relaxed, and you know, we went out to eat, and he just said, just like I said, he told me to focus, I think, on an apple, and just keep that in my mind and just relax and answer the questions, without giving them thought.
Are you worried at all about repercussions now about coming forward?
Not really.
What about your aunt or whoever it was, Judy?
She died in 2000.
Okay.
You said have you spoken with the Stoner family recently?
I have, yeah.
And did you tell them that they were
Not the whole family, but I've been close to Dave for a long time, Rick's brother, and I don't think, he just seems, whatever, he doesn't really want me dragging his mom through the mud, obviously. But he knows, he sees my point, and he's pretty much whatever I want to do. I don't think he necessarily agrees with it, but
Do you think there's any chance he'd talk to us?
probably zero.
Okay.
Yeah, he doesn't want to get involved.
Do you think anybody in that family who knows of the conspiracy would talk to us?
I know my mom would, but I wouldn't want to get her involved. She was kind of, after she found out what happened, she was pretty much, she didn't like the idea that much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you talked to her about the fact that you're going to come clean?
Yeah,
She's supportive?
she's pretty supportive. She's worried about it. She's concerned about it, but her and Judy had talked a lot about it after the fact too. Like I said, I took off once the trial was over, and my mom stayed around for a while after that. So, and a lot. I think once the conviction actually went down, there was a lot more chatter about it. That was one of the reasons I just wanted to leave, get out of there. But that was kind of their vindication. Obviously, at that point, that was after his acquittal for killing Rick. But I think the family was pretty well satisfied that we were able to get him on the Buckley murder.
Did your family know who the real perpetrator was of the Buckley murder?
You know what? Like I say, I had no idea the Buckley murder until after Rick was killed. So to be 100% honest with you, you know what? I had an idea myself, but it would be just speculation.
Okay. Right.
There was somebody that I seen a friend of mine in the pictures that had said he wasn't at the party, so.
That made you suspicious of him?
Yeah, just suspicious, but like I said, that would be just speculation on my part.
Right. Are you the one that posted that on the talkeaton.com?
Yeah.
Okay.
You
I think-
posted twice.
It was twice, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's important just sort of lay low now.
You're right.
I mean, we're going to take care of this and kind of go from here. And it's really important that we need to be able to stay in touch with you,
Right.
so that when we need you, you call us back. And when are you going back to Washington?
I'm gonna leave probably on the 10th.
10th of December.
Right.
Okay. And you're going to be in Eaton until then.
Right.
And do you have the same cell phone?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. What we'll probably need to do, I mean, we'll ask more questions, but before I forget, not try to do an affidavit now since he's here on the 10th and we have it on tape,
Mhm.
but have him back down with a draft of an affidavit, have him watch the tape, and the affidavit will verify that the tape's accurate and the affidavit's accurate, and finish this up before we go.
I have
Alright.
documentation of who I am too. I could bring some ID.
Yeah, I mean, this is so crazy in Preble County that, if people are going to try to say, this is not even him, this is like one of Billy Scott's relatives.
Well, I immediately went on the Talk Eat, and they said, "Nice try, Dave."
Right.
So yeah, they obviously didn't believe it was me.
Did you take those posts down?
They
Could-
banned me.
Okay, because I saw that they were
Taken off almost
removed.
immediately.
Okay.
So
Have you been talking to other people about this?
no,
Okay.
no.
What prompted you to go on Talk Eaton?
You know what? That's where somebody had told me that there was something on there about David. That's actually where I think they found out that, I forget who it was that told me about the talk eating thing, but something about, there was a billboard on there, the Clear Billy Scott billboard, and so I checked it out, and I was reading all the stuff on there, and I just seen there was a whole bunch of stuff right after David was arrested that was on there. It was
It's David Scott.
right, and it just obviously everybody just thinks he thinks he did it, and I can see their point. Usually when a judge and a jury convicts somebody, that most of the time it's legit. But obviously there are those few cases that are like this one, and this was a bad deal for Billy. It was a frame from the bottom to the top. It's just that simple.
Okay.
Now on the subject of the post, if I recall correctly, the first one went up about like 2:45 a.m. Saturday. And we spoke Friday night, I want to say around 10 p.m., 10:30, right? And at that time, you expressed to me concerns that you were being
I think it might have been Moody or something that had told me about that.
talk eating.
Right. I couldn't be sure on that, but
Well, how much communication have you had with Moody?
very little, really. And you know what? Once I got your number from Moody, once I asked Moody who exactly he was, and what was my sister that told me about that. I just remembered she was on the internet and seen that. She lives out in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, she's the one that sent Moody the first email.
Okay. And how did she send that email? Was it directly to him, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
She got it off a website. I think it was the Talking website or something like that.
Okay.
But that's where I learned most of. I was basically, it's just gossip on that website anyway. So.
And then so you got in touch with Moody. Do you recall when that was?
This is how this whole thing started, right? Is you get in touch with Moody from the website?
Right. Yeah. I called Moody, and of course he was interested. And once I found out he was a family member, as is when I really, I kind of fished out of him David's name.
When did you first talk to him?
I could probably look on my phone and give you an exact date.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And I recall him. Once he had my number, he was calling me and texting me, and but like I said, once I actually found out, I wasn't clear that he was a family member, but I had a suspicion that he was.
Family member of Billy Scott.
Yes.
Okay.
And when I confirmed that, is when I really kind of backed off talking to him too much.
Okay.
I give him a few details, basically, of course, those like I told you, they've been speculating for years. All they know is that Billy didn't do it, and they've got all these conspiracy theories, but they really didn't know exactly how it happened. Somehow, like I said, the Consolidated Road thing got brought into it. I had no idea that the Scotts were involved in that or had anything to do with that. But that gave me an idea of why possibly that there was a motive from, because I always wondered why the detectives and the prosecutor did what they did. I didn't know if it was just, I know Judy used to work at the courthouse and had friends there, but it was pretty dirty what they did, and
What do you think their motive was?
I think their motive obviously was from their past encounters with the Scott family. Prior to that, they had motives, they had reasons, they wanted to get at Billy, and so did the Buckleys, and obviously the Stoners. And then once they came into the picture, it just kind of molded itself into, you know, this conspiracy, you know, to punish him. But I wasn't aware of any of that until recently.
While you're looking for the time you called Moody, what prompted you all of a sudden in 2009? You said it's been weighing on you these years. Like all of a sudden, someday an email was sent and you started. Did your sister have an input in that, or like what sort of was the thing that made you make the first contact and say I'm coming clean?
You know, like I said, I mentioned it to my federal attorneys, and during that case, it's been bothering me for a long time, man. It's been bothering me since it happened.
Okay.
To be honest with you, it really, like I said, I honestly never figured it would get as far as it did, and as it progressed, it just kept getting, you know, right down to the point where, you know, I'm coming out of the courtroom and David tried to attack me in the courthouse. You know, it seems surreal that it actually happened and went the way it did.
That's David Scott.
Yeah.
Has anybody from the Scott family, since you've come clean, sort of threatened you or said you better follow through on this or anything like that?
No. I did get one text message from Moody that was, you know, after I wasn't answering his calls or calling him back,